Superman Annual Number 1, written by Scott Lobdell and Fabian Nicieza, art by a whole lot of people, but mostly Pascal Alixe. So, this is Hellspawn and the Daemonites, and it's something. It's dense is what it is. So, we open up 3,600 years ago with the Empire of Dame, where this young prince comes in carrying his dead wife and says, "Hey, Mom, remember I told you that our entire race was dying? Yeah, my wife just died in childbirth, as did the kid. So maybe we could do something about that?" And the mom's like, "Hey, shut up. I'm still the queen." And he's like, "We've been mixing our DNA and genetics with all these other races and species, and it's been diluting our bloodline. We need to go back to putting our own people first." And she's like, "Okay, you sound like you're committing treason here, so I'm just going to go ahead and cast you out of my entire empire. You're banished. Goodbye." And he says, I will get back what was taken from us. I swear it." So then we go to Superman now. He's in his apartment. Jimmy Olsen's still crashing with him. And he's looking around like, boy, Jimmy sure is a slob, but, I just love people. I love being around people. I'm going to take the subway in this New York stand-in because I just love being around these people so much. And then he gets to the Daily Planet, and he's like, boy, the Daily Planet sure did love what it used to be, but now it's bought out by a big old company, and now it's not a news station anymore. It's a gossip rag. Boy, I wish Lois Lane could fix things. God, I miss Lois. Hey, is that an alien spaceship? And lo and behold, over top of Metropolis is this giant alien spaceship. And he goes like, all right, let me just use my telescopic vision. She goes, oh, it's Hellspawn. And Hellspawn notices me. He's like, oh, hey, Superman. He's like, oh. I don't know how he could see me, but regardless, runs back down on the subway, changes into Superman, and flies up to the ship. And before he can get there, he reminisces. He's like, I fought Hellspawn before, in whatever issue that was. Hopefully I can manage to take him out, even with this big ship. But before he can do anything, Hellspawn, who's wearing a different costume, I would say better. It's more menacing for sure. He grabs Superman by the cape and holds him still, and he's like, hey, here's the thing. I create my own atmosphere around me so I can hear you because I know that you're worrying about that you're not able to hear me in space. It's fine. I create my own atmosphere. I know you're the strongest on the planet, and I'm going to beat you up anyway. And he just backhands Superman into the moon. So then Superman sits up. He's like, oh, gee, I got backhanded. I'm going to get revenge for that. And as Superman goes to stand up, he falls back. And he's like, oh, I might have a concussion. Cut to Earth. Starlight Runner Observatory. We meet up with John Jones, who realizes oh, hey, that's a Daemonite ship. Maybe I should contact Stormwatch, aka that book that I was a part of until very recently. And then someone shows up saying, hi, I'm Selu. I work with Hellspawn up there, and your planet must now surrender, Martian Manhunter. And they get into a brief little fight until Selu gets the upper hand, and she's like, haha, our power is so much more. We were going to recruit you to our side, but not anymore. Now you're going to whatever. And they talk about how Hellspawn's just basically looking to rule, not to murder, but also he's definitely going to murder. But it's okay because he's looking after the intergalactic bestiary, which, okay. Then we see Superman is inside of a ship. He wakes up, and it turns out it's Grifter's ship. Grifter, the other Daemonite book. And Superman's like, oh, yeah, Grifter, I've heard of you. Hey, I'm not a huge fan of guns pointed at me. He just melted with his heat vision. And then before they can even, start talking, one of Hellspawn's big bads called Biomass rips open the ship they're on. Superman says, hey, you guys take cover. I'm going to seal the ship from the outside because, we're in space, and take Biomass with me. And so he does, and then literally we don't even find out what happens to Grifter. But then he's hit by Biomass again really hard, and it seems to knock him out again. Cut to on the Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo, and Starfire is laying on the beach saying, oh boy, I sure do love being in my book that's also written by Scott Lobdell. And then she's interrupted by a guy named Quam, who Starfire immediately just tries to kill, even though he did literally nothing. And he just grabs her by the neck, says, "Hey, what do you know about the 13 scions of salvation?" And she's like, "That's a fairy tale." And he's like, "Psh, shows what you know. That's the only reason that Hellspawn's keeping you alive." And then he just leaves. It's a thing that happened in Red Hood for like 2 panels. I don't know how to explain it either. So then we see Superman still fighting Biomass, and he knocks him into Hellspawn's ship, and Hellspawn's just standing there, and he's like, "Hey, why do you keep trying to save people?" And Superman's like, "All of these humans' lives are precious." And he's like, "Really? Okay, so what about the agents that I put down on Earth that I am currently going around murdering?" And he's like, "What? Why are you killing your own people?" He's like, "Because I let them live. Now I'm choosing to make them die. What do you got to say about it?" And then we cut over to Hawkman, who's attacked by a big red guy named Lord Defile, who once again tells him, like, "Hey, join our army or else you will be killed." And he's like, "Okay, well, I guess I'm going to kill you then." But then he's summoned back to the ship, so whatever. It's they're talking about how the 13 scions can save the universe and whatever. So then we cut back to Hellspawn talking to Superman. Superman's being held back by 2 lowly Daemonites, which doesn't make any sense to me, but then Hellspawn just kills the Daemonites that were holding him anyway, and then explains this whole thing where he's like, "Superman, what about utilitarianism? Would you kill 10 billion to save 100 trillion? And Superman's like, "No, every life." And Hellspawn's like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense. By the way, I'm super old and powerful and a conquester. Do you think I haven't fought a Kryptonian before?" And then he recounts how he went to all these planets, and he was the prince. He was Prince Artist from the beginning. In case that wasn't obvious, that was him. And he actually looked human at that point, so it's weird how he evolved into this. Anyway, they went down to Earth at one point, and they discovered that the lowly human population at that point, which just built the pyramids, had a metagene in them. And that was going to be useful to Hellspawn, so he decided, okay, I'm going to leave some of my people here, and they're just going to like tame the humans to make sure the metagene evolves properly, and then I'll come back to harvest. But it turns out that, they kind of went native, and they didn't really care about the mission anymore. So now that Hellspawn's re-arrived, he's like, "No, I'm just going to kill them all. And then I'm just going to take the population anyway. By the way, Superman, I should be thanking you because this population has only turned out so well because you've been defending them. So keep doing what you're doing. Bye." And he's like, Hellspawn, I tore out the power system to your ship. You're not going anywhere." And he's like, "Ha ha ha, Superman. Actually, I'm the power source. I'm that powerful. Bye." And he just warp speeds out. And Superman's like, oh, and then Hellspawn says something like, "By the way, your father would be disappointed in you." Vroom. And he's like, "Wait a minute, you knew Jor-El? Son of a bitch. Okay, whatever." And then he just sits there for a full page being like, "I am so hopelessly outclassed by Hellspawn. Even the Justice League could do nothing. What am I to do if all we're doing is playing into his plans? Oh, what a world." Here's the thing. I like the art. The art looks great. I like Hellspawn's new design. Much better looking than, like, Skeletor. But the writing is so dense and it's just so much packed in here. I get that. I think that Scott Lobdell and Rob Liefeld have teamed up because those are like their books that they're writing together, which, by the way, is horrifying of a concept. But regardless, they're teaming up to tell this Daemonite story, and this is like the big start to it of like, okay, he's here and he's doing the thing. But then they wrap up the story in, okay, but I'm leaving and I'll be back eventually. So it doesn't even feel like they're doing anything. It just feels like this was a thing of like, by the way, guys, if you're reading Superman, check out all these other books in which Daemonites are prominently featured. By the way, Red Hood and the Outlaws was not actually one of those. But we're including it here anyway. So, I don't know. It's okay. It's not good. And it's definitely not something I'm looking forward to. But in terms of competence, it's okay. So I'm going to give this one a 6 because it's not offensively bad. And they actually made Hellspawn a tiny bit menacing, which has never happened in any of his other appearances. So yeah, I'll give this one a 6, but I'm not happy with the development.